hate being told to be quiet. It's one of my least favorite things. I can attach being silenced to most of the traumas in my life, how I experience them, how I'm allowed to share them, my opinions on things. My mouth has been a blessing and a curse in my life. I've had several people in my life point that out to me. As I begin episode 223, I'm at a first in my podcast experience. I'm starting a podcast with really no idea about what I'm going to talk about. I mean, I actually have a list of things, but usually it comes to me and I can sit down and turn on my computer and talk for an hour, completely unscripted and unorganized and unoutlined. And they sound better than I imagined they could. I have a gift, right? I do have the gift of gab. So when someone tells me to be quiet, it pisses me off. I don't like it. In the middle of my spill the tea season, I'm finding that a lot of the things that I have not shared about myself are either horrible things that happened to me and things I'm angry about. And so when you live in those kinds of memories and feelings, you permeate them and you attract them. I always hated in my spiritual mentoring. Look at the word hate with spiritual mentoring. I disliked intensely in my spiritual mentoring being told that, I have to put out what I want to receive. If you want to receive love, then you have to give love. If you want to receive happiness, you have to give happiness. And I get all that, but it's a tall, tall order to put on somebody to say 100% of the time, the only time you're going to get what you want is to give it. Regardless of how true it is, it's a hard way to live. It's a lot of pressure. Last week, I did that silly episode on Would You Rather? And it was, again, I didn't really know what to talk about. I'm in a conundrum. I'm stuck. I don't want to relive the holidays. The holidays suck and they're wonderful. So there I am with that. I don't want to talk about clutter as I look around my cluttered office. I don't want to talk about grief and dead Molly because it's in my face all the time. So I listen to other podcasts, and some of my favorites involve storytelling. I love true story podcasts, true crime, family secrets. I like Karen Kenny's podcast, The Karen Kenny Show, because she's good at storytelling. And I like storytelling. And I actually have figured out a way to tell two really scandalous stories in my past by telling them as a story. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. I'll have to preface it with that. In the process of trying to find a topic for today, I had lots of good suggestions from people. Most of them were things I'd already talked about, so I didn't want to sort of re-record, or I'm not inspired to re-record those kinds of things. Somebody suggests I do a day in the life of Barb. Okay, I think that would be a really incredibly boring podcast, quite honestly. I think I might shoot questions. After this one, I'm going to shoot out questions to see that if my listeners want to know things about me. I don't tend to get good responses from y'all. A handful of people respond to everything, but either only 5 people listen to my podcast or only 5 people respond. I don't know. I don't want to think about what the reality might be. The topic that did come up for me a lot was anger. I'm in a rough place. So I decided if I was interviewing myself for my podcast, what might I ask myself? So I'm going to ask myself questions and answer them. And that will give you some insight into where I'm at right now. It will keep me from going down the rabbit hole of bitterness and resentment and darkness and anger and all of that. It will distract us for a little while as you hear all these wacky things about Barb. But while I'm telling you about me, I want you to think about you. Like if you were answering the question for me, what would it be? The other thing that came from my questions is a handful of people who said, I would love to be on your podcast as a guest and tell their stories. And one of the girls that reached out is a former student of mine, like so many of my best people are. She's like, me, interview me. And then she put a post on. She had received some criticism around something. And she was like, walk a mile in my shoes. So I wrote to her and I posted and said, that's like a podcast episode title, Walk a Mile in My Shoes, which might actually be my next season on 1,000 Tiny Steps. Walk a mile in my shoes. I have to always remember that when I'm angry at somebody, I have to remember what it might be like to be in their shoes. And I don't always know. I'm going to go through some questions. So the first question is, what do people misunderstand about you most? So what do people misunderstand about me? A lot of people think I'm sort of chronically happy. I think people think I'm chronically strong, that I handle things well. I think people think I'm always optimistic. I also know that people are afraid of me sometimes. They think I'm angry, which is opposite from all the happy I just did. I know that when I communicate via text or email, I often come off sounding angry. I can get caught on social media threads sounding like I'm pissed off when I'm not. I'm trying to engage in conversation. I know that there are people who think I'm a bit nuts. I get a lot of eye rolls at school board meetings. So they think all of these things, but probably the biggest misunderstanding is I don't think people really realize how smart I am and how level-headed I am on the inside and how capable I am at things. Now, my nickname in the CrossFit gym is a unicorn because I can do things physically and athletically that make no sense. But I think I'm misunderstood in my ability to make handling my crazy life look easy. It's not easy. I struggle. What was your biggest failure and what did you learn from the experience? Well, Barb, thanks for asking that question. When I think right away what pops to mind, my biggest failure, I think would be my whole experience with Roy. Getting involved, agreeing to help, believing what he said. I just talked about how smart I am and how capable I am. And I was so easily hoodwinked and just drawn down a path of destruction. And I stayed and stayed and stayed. I look at that as a pretty big failure, like a personal failure. I feel like I failed Molly as a mother. I was so wrapped up in Roy and living this double, quadruple life and, just making poor decisions and not focusing. That's how I feel sometimes. That feels like a big failure. What did I learn from these experiences? Well, a million things. Here's the thing about failure, though, is sometimes I think failure is like a gift. And here's why I think it. In all my years of coaching runners and any athlete, always, always, I would remind them that you don't learn anything from winning. You learn nothing from standing on top of a podium, except how much fun it is to stand up there. Athletes don't lie in bed at night and relive every step of a race they won in the same way they relive every step of a race they lost. That sometimes we learn the most from our failures. So I think I've learned from every failure. I learned from cross country my senior year in high school, going out hard and trying to lead from the front, that was not going to work for me. And so all of my races in spring track were tactical. That's an athletic example and a running example. I have a harder time learning from the relationship things and the friendship things. And I think it's because they touch on a different part of the brain and a different part of reality. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be, Barb? I don't know. I feel that the one thing I would want to be remembered for is whatever the one thing was that I did that made somebody love me or feel good about me or made them feel good because I did it. I would want Gracie to remember me for being a good mom, if I could be a good mom. I would want Jack to remember me for the same things. I would want all of my students and athletes to remember me as a good coach and a good teacher. You know, I think it depends on the person and who's doing the remembering. That's not a black or white question for me. What's your favorite holiday movie and what does it say about you? Okay, really, my favorite holiday movie, I think, is It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. It's an old movie. And what I like about it is I think sometimes it mirrors my life in the sense that he had all these big plans. He was going to grow up and get out of town. He wasn't going to stay. And one thing after another keeps him in his hometown. And he's angry about it and bitter and resentful and sad. And he goes through his whole life and he culminates with him wanting to die. And a guardian angel comes and shows him what his life would have been like if he was never born. And he realizes all these little things he did that set in motion the bigger things. And then he realizes, I don't want to die. I want to be alive. I love my life. And what this brings back for me, what does this say about me? I remember sitting in my car. I'd been teaching at Walker School for about 15 years, and I found a note I'd written to myself, like I was cleaning out a desk drawer, and it said, open in 15 years. And I opened it, was dated 15 years prior, and I opened it and it said, I hope I'm not still at the same job. And when I first started teaching, I remember thinking I didn't want to be one of those people that taught for 30 years in one place. Like I somehow thought that wasn't enough. It reminded me of the movie Mr. Holland's Opus with Richard Dreyfuss, when he's a music teacher and he wants to be a conductor and all this, and he ends up spending his whole entire life teaching, and he composes and his students play him his composition. But it's that type of feeling. And now I would give anything to go back and not have lost my job, and I'd still be teaching and coaching, and I'd be between 30 and 40 years, and I feel sad about that. So I think that's why I like that movie. Hey, Barb, if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would you say? I would say don't drink. That's what I would say. A lot of my issues and problems, especially in college and in my 20s, were centered around alcohol addiction. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest one. I was watching Jane Fonda give an interview this morning, and she talked about how you have your first 30 years and your second 30 years, and then you're in your final act, right? I'm in the third 30 of my life. And so she talked about not wanting to have regrets. And Most of my profound regrets come from the note in the backpack day, meeting Roy and his family and going through Molly's death and all that. Those are my biggest. But again, I think I have to grow beyond those regrets, so I can look back on those things and not feel just so utterly devastated by them. I might tell my 18-year-old self to slow down, that life isn't all about being a star. But my 18-year-old self wouldn't listen, you know. Tell me, Barb, the three most influential people in your life and how they've impacted you. Well, I think the first one would have to be Coach Ludi. That's sort of an obvious no-brainer. He was like a father figure. He was a guide and a mentor. He was a coach. He became one of my longest friends. He played a major role in every huge thing that happened to me and all of the small things that happened to me. He's the easiest one by far, Coach Ludi. I think the next would be Joni Benoit. I call her Joni, Joan Benoit Samuelson. And it's not because she's an Olympic gold medalist. What I like about Joni is her unwillingness to give in. We are still in touch relatively frequently. She has also been just a big mentor for me in regard to how she handles the fame and all that she's done with her running in her life. She could likely be a lot wealthier than she is. She could probably be a lot more famous than she is, but she knew what she wanted and she lived her life. Her home is modest and humble and small up in the middle of nowhere, Maine. It's beautiful. Her day-to-day life is regular. I mean, she travels a ton for Nike, but she isn't posting herself all over the place looking for attention. She lets her actions be her attention. That's two. Number three. I actually might have to say Kathleen Murphy, even though I only knew her for 5 years. She's another one who lived by example and wasn't afraid to make mistakes or stand by something that she believed, even if everyone told her she was wrong. She was a real rock for me for the short time that I knew her. Now, I could think about these things and come up with 20 more people, but those three came to mind sort of right away. I'm skipping all the relationship questions. Ooh, look, the best health podcast questions. Here we go. What does Barb have to say about health? Well, Barb, what does health and wellness mean to you? Okay, well, I did a whole sabbatical on health and wellness for elementary school students. And the biggest message I wanted to share with them at the time was that health is three things. It's your body, what you feed your body, and working out and how you take care of your body, because your body is your soul house. Every body is different, and each body responds differently to different things. So knowing your body. Then your social health. Are you a good friend? Do you expect people to be good friends to you? Do you keep yourself busy? Do you join things? How do you treat yourself socially so that you're socially healthy? And then emotional health. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you afraid? And how do you focus on those things? And I remember, it needs to be real black and white with younger kids. They have to be able to picture it in their head. So I did a lot of artistic and creative work and activities and games around these things. As an adult, social, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, and physical health. If I had to pick a course to give, I would give a health course. And it wouldn't be all count your calories and track your macros and go to the gym 5 days a week. That's all part of it. But I think again, people come into physical health uniquely. They do things that they like. My Peppo never went to a gym, but he could climb a ladder with a bag of shingles on his shoulder until well into his 80s because he worked hard every day. So he was strong from his work. My dad, Mr. Higgins' dad, his failure physically as he aged is he spent all day sitting. He just didn't do anything. And so his body just sort of disappeared. What health and wellness means to me is combining all three. Being happy with yourself and with others, having good connections in a social life and a family life, and taking good care of your body, saying your prayers. So right now, I think I'm physically quite healthy as I rub my sore shoulder and nurse my sore foot. Emotionally, I'm in a tough place right now. However, I sit here once a week and talk to you all about it. So I'm not, in a hole someplace being sad, under a porch by myself. Spiritual, social, I'm okay. I don't have a solid social life, and that's hard on me sometimes, but I just feel like I'm always running around trying to keep up with everything. So what does your current self-care routine look like, Barb? Well, I eat single ingredient foods 90% of the time. I moderate or avoid alcohol all the time. I drink a lot of water, and that's about all I drink. Coffee, water, seltzer. I don't drink a lot of juices and things. I work out pretty much every day or very regularly. Probably if I averaged out at the end of a year, I probably work out 5 days a week. And sometimes on the days I don't go to the gym and work out, I'm doing things like blowing leaves or moving furniture, so I'm not sitting around. I don't have too many days where I just sit and do nothing. I don't always brush my teeth every night, so maybe my oral health isn't so great. I always brush them in the morning. I brush them at least once a day, but sometimes I get into bed and I just forget. I don't want to get back up. That's probably not great. I have inhalers that I use. I don't take any prescription medicine. I take a lot of vitamins and minerals. I take an inhaler before I work out, and then I have an inhaler that is an anti-inflammatory. I take estrogen because it helps my joints feel better. That's it for prescriptions. That's it. Everything else is a supplement, something natural. Two things I don't do. I don't pray every day, which I should, and I don't read every day and journal. And I feel like those would be things I could add into a self-care routine that would make me feel better about myself. Tell me, Barb, about your dietary regime. How do you stay on track? Food has never been a big deal for me. I could give two flying hoots what I eat day to day. I don't want to spend time preparing it. I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to keep track of it. I just don't like to be hungry, and I don't like to be overly full. How I stick to it is I just eat foods that I like. And fortunately, foods that I like are single ingredient foods. So a very, very typical day for me is a banana and a peanut butter sandwich for breakfast with a protein shake or protein bar and some water. Then I work out. After I work out, I eat maybe like, 3 eggs with some cheese in there and salsa and veggies. Or I might have a bowl of rice cereal with collagen powder mixed in, some fruit, a little honey. Those are very different, but those are typical things I eat. My favorite lunch is a bunch of baby carrots, a couple of pieces of cheese, a bunch of chicken that taken off a rotisserie chicken that's just cold. I put salt and pepper on it, maybe some hummus, a very, very standard lunch. Dinner, Kenny cooks dinner, so I'm at his sort of beck and call for dinner, but they're good dinners. We have chicken and rice and veggies probably 3 or 4 nights a week. Crock pot meals, stews, things like this. I could give a hoot about food, so I was once a junk food junkie. Again, it didn't come from wanting the junk food so much as convenience eating. I just ate what I could eat. I don't like preparing food. What's your favorite way to keep fit and active, Barb? Well, it used to be running, and I have to be honest, I miss it. I miss the running so much. I had just gotten to a point where it wasn't killing me, like physically painful to do it, and I overdid my foot, so I haven't been able to run since like November 10th. So I'm irritated by that. But right now it's CrossFit. I love going to CrossFit. I love a CrossFit gym. I love the community. I love the variety of workouts. I like the music, all of it. I like all of it. I love weightlifting. It's challenging and fun. I also like the concept too, rower. I love rowing. It has that rhythmical feeling. It's like swimming laps, which I also like. I haven't cross country or downhill skied since long before Molly died. It's been a long time. I miss both of those things, but not enough really to make it happen. Yeah, that's how I do that. What was your personal turning point in taking health more seriously? I've never not been healthy. I didn't have a big turning point like, oh my God, this is it. I came into athletics. I was asthmatic as a child, so I was always trying and failing and trying and failing. And so I didn't have a big turning point. I've always been healthy. I've always worked out. I've always had fitness goals. I've always had physical challenges that I try to overcome. That's just been my life. Can you name a wellness hack you'd recommend to anyone? The biggest wellness hack in my mind is eat what you like, do what you like, socialize how you like. If you want to be well, you have to enjoy what you're doing. I would say that if you can add movement into your day-to-day life, that's an easy way for people who don't like exercise to get exercise. So never take elevators, always take the stairs. Take the long way. Incorporate movement into your daily tasks. So you're taking laundry out of the washer into the dryer, take it out one item at a time and alternate hands. I don't know, silly things. You can add movement into your daily tasks. Rake the yard, don't blow the leaves. I just think you have to do what you like. That's the key thing. But it is not healthy to spend all your day sedentary and sitting. Even if you have chronic illness that causes movement to be uncomfortable, movement is still an important part of what you need to do. Barb, how has your perspective on mental health changed over time? Mental health. I've always felt that it's not my job to hide the actions of the people that have harmed me. And I've also been raised to hide the actions of the people that have harmed me. So no and tell, Me Too, all those movements that encourage people to share what's happened to them, I think it was a shift in mental health in general. I do know that having read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, the connection between mental health and physical health is intense. You cannot be depressed and mentally stressed and be physically healthy. It's very difficult. Now, having said that, I have a dead child and I'm physically healthy, but it takes a lot of work. It's a constant. If I let too many days go by where I don't work out, I really fall into a dark place. So the next 3 questions are sort of the same thing. What's inspired me to stay fit and healthy? Are there any health or wellness resources you really love? What's the best decision you ever made for your health journey? My inspiration for staying healthy is I feel better when I'm healthy. I don't want people to have to take care of me. I don't want to be stuck in a bed or a chair and not be able to be independent. That's a nightmare for me. Siri and Google are great wellness resources now. I like all the CrossFit data. I just think there's so much information out there for everybody. I like natural remedies and natural ways for health. For example, there was that Netflix documentary I talk about a lot, Secrets of the Blue Zones. I'm obsessed with that. I've watched it like 10 times because those people are healthy because they live healthy lifestyles. They sit on the floor to eat and they cut their vegetables and they walk everywhere they go and they do a lot of their tasks by hand and they hang out with people and they eat well. Like, they just live good lives. And I think that's it for me. So all these social media questions, and this is where I'm terrible. I have this high school student that's willing to help me, and I haven't followed through on anything on my end so that she can help me. I'm the worst. So that's something that needs to change. Favorite social media platform? I'm on Facebook all the time because it's just my go-to, but I do like Instagram. I need to get onto TikTok more. Snapchat makes no sense to me. How much time do I spend on social media? Oh God, hours and hours because I wake up in the night. It's my doom scroll. So I sit and I scroll in the night. A lot less. I mean, a lot less than I used to. I can manage it better. I need to be busy. I don't have any big cool social media handles. Mostly they have my name in them, Barb, my Molly B Foundation or Purposeful Fill 13, 1,000 Tiny Steps, all the things that I do. Those are my media handles and all that sort of stuff. Best sports podcast questions. All right, let's see. Okay, Barb, what are your 3 favorite sports and why? So I'm going to look at this as a sports to watch. So obviously track and field. I love watching track and field and running. I used to love watching figure skating and gymnastics. I don't now. Both of those sports don't hold interest for me watching them anymore. If I were to watch sports on TV, I like watching downhill skiing, ski racing. I like watching tennis, believe it or not, Wimbledon, watching like certain tennis. And then I like watching basketball. If I had to choose a professional sport to watch, basketball is interesting. It's back and forth. The whistle doesn't blow every 12 seconds. There's no equipment that's hiding them. It's very athletic. So I enjoy watching that. In terms of live, I really love baseball games. I love going to Red Sox games and baseball stadiums. They kind of make me happy. I don't know why. I like watching CrossFit on TV and the CrossFit games. I do not like watching golf. No, thank you. When did you get interested in playing sports? So I never ever was interested in playing sports as a child because I sucked at everything. I couldn't throw a ball. There weren't a lot of sports options for me anyway. Couldn't throw a ball, couldn't catch a ball, had asthma. So running was my first sport, and that's when I became interested. Well, swimming, cross-country skiing, and running, those got me into movement. I also love to hike. All of those things got me into sort of activities that are athletic in nature. I've never been a team sport player ever. I wonder if I'd like pickleball. Do you have great sports accomplishments you'd like to share? Yes. I was the first high school girl, female-bodied human, let me be clear, that version of girl, to break 5 minutes in the mile in the state of New Hampshire. I was the first one to do it. 2 of us broke 5 in that race. Kathy Skiro, now she's Kathy O'Brien, was behind me, and she also broke 5. So that was a big day for New Hampshire track and field, 1981. Another good accomplishment is my freshman year was the first year that girls, women, female-bodied people could get athletic scholarships under the NCAA. That was huge for girls and women, huge. And I was Boston University's first Division I All-American for women, first female Division I All-American. You'd think I'd be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not. So write some letters. Who are your greatest sporting icons? Well, Larry Bird comes right to mind. Larry. I love Pedro Martinez and Jason Varitek, longtime Red Sox players. I love Mary Decker Slaney, Mary Slaney. She was an amazing runner back in the day. These are like the big high name ones, but there were some more subtle ones. Joan Hansen, a woman that I know now. We know one another. We've talked on the phone a couple of times. She's a wonderful human being. And she was somebody I watched. She was, boy, the mid 80s and late 80s were amazing for female running and runners. And there were so many ridiculously fast women. It was an awesome time to love running. In terms of current sports icons, I don't know. Matt Bonner, he's a local sporting icon for me. Went to Concord High. I coached his sister in track. Hey, Barb, if you could speak to any sports player in history, who would you choose? I think I would choose Roger Bannister. He broke the 4-minute mile. I just think it would be fun to talk to him. He ran at a time that running was very different. So none of you might know who he is, but he was the first human to break 4 minutes in the mile. And thus far, only male-bodied humans have done that. Only men and boys have broken 4 minutes in the mile. No female-bodied humans have done that yet. We're getting there. Do you think, Barb, as an educator, that sports education is important for schools? Yes, I do. Here's the thing. Sports, theater, dance, music, academic clubs, they all need to be a part of school. It can't just be athletics. The day-to-day reality of school, sitting in classrooms, teaching methods haven't changed in a century, over a century. There's a commercial where you see like a car from 1900 and a car from 2000. They're totally different. You see an airplane from 1900, airplane from totally different. You see a classroom from 1900 and it's a room full of desks in rows. You see a classroom in 2000, it's a room full of desks with rows. We've changed nothing about how we educate. When I look back on my education, yes, I have some amazing memories in class, but most of my memories come from track, come from yearbook club and German club, come from varsity club, come from the things I did after school, theater and dance, chorus, choir, playing the violin, all state. I have so many memories of those aspects of my education that to me, sometimes it's just as important as the academics that we're sitting through. Whimsical off the wall questions. So, Barb, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? Well, I have to be honest, I like where I live. I don't know that I'd want to live anywhere else because my family is here. I loved Bali, Indonesia. That would be a fun place to live for a stretch. I love Europe and the architecture and the variety of culture and weather. That's all really easily to navigate. I would love to live someplace warm. I'm telling you, I don't have a place, do I? One place. I don't know. I don't know. If I had to choose a place to live, Switzerland. I'll choose Switzerland. I don't know. I don't know. I'm happy where I am. If you could have coffee with any historic figure, who would you choose? I would choose Mary Baker Eddy. She started the Christian Science religion. She's from around here. But what I like about her is she was science driven and spiritually driven at the same time. And I just would love to pick her brain. I think it would be a fun cup of coffee. Also, maybe JFK, having been a Massachusetts resident for a while. He was assassinated when I was 4 months old, but he would be an interesting person to sit and have coffee with, I think. Maybe Jesus. I don't know if he liked coffee. What was your favorite subject in school? I liked all the English, all things English. I loved it. Reading. I liked history as well, but mostly English. Favorite trip I've ever taken? I would have to say Indonesia. That was pretty amazing. I also had fun shooting the TV commercial in Utah. Those were fun trips, I have to say. I am a Leo. That's the next question. An extroverted Leo. Having said that, there are times when I'm quite happy to be quiet and can seem a bit introverted. Who's the best one here and why am I? And yes, I'm not shy. And if I won $10 million, I would primarily spend it on the Molly B Foundation. I would build an auditorium at our new middle school and call it the Molly Banzoff Center for Performing Arts. And I would build a track and field stadium in Concord and call it the Barb Higgins track. That's what I would do with $10 million. I'd give it away. If I had to write a book tomorrow, what would I write about? I would write about everything I went through with Roy. Yeah, that's what I would write about. That's sort of my next book. There's so much I haven't shared in that story. That'd be a hard one to write, though. That's what it would be about, I think. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? Ha ha! It would be a farmer's breakfast. It would be a big bowl of fruit with porridge, 2 pieces of French toast, scrambled eggs, bacon and sausage, and potatoes. There, I've covered it all. And some baby carrots. That would be my meal. What would be the title of the book about you if your worst enemy wrote it? Oh, let's see, my worst enemy. Well, if Robin wrote the book, it would have to do with having a disgusting, creepy past. So, the disgusting, creepy girl. If Roy wrote the book, well, he was going to write a book about Amy called Crazy Courts, Crazy Wives. So maybe he'd write, my book would just be Crazy Courts, Crazy Girlfriends. I don't know. It would have the word crazy in it, though. I'm quite sure of it. The people I worked with at the charter school, Steph and her mom wrote the book. It would be something to do with racism. I'd be racist because I'm white. And just by the virtue of being white, I am a racist. So that would be about that, I think. I don't know. I don't know. It'd be interesting, though. If I wrote my book, just sort of my own book about my life, I would title it, Oh No, Here She Comes. What's your favorite color and what does that say about you? Well, my favorite color is blue, like a periwinkle blue. Like I'm going to show you my water bottle, this color blue. And when you read things about what different favorite colors mean, blue means you're a psychopath. So I'm nuts. That's all right. I also like pink and I like blue and pink together. Like I love a sky blue pink. I don't like how rainbows and colors and things get politicized. I think, it takes away my freedom to express myself without making a statement I'm not intending to make. But I do like sky blue pink is probably my favorite color. And that probably supports the fact that I can't make up my mind about things. So my next question that I'll answer is, Barb, do you think your listeners will like this episode? I don't know. I have a wonderful editor that can shorten it and condense it. I struggle sometimes. I'm struggling right now with being motivated and inspired to do things and say things. I don't know. So this will just be another sort of whimsical, fun. I better record something because I don't want to have no podcast episode airing. So I hope it's not too boring for you. I was listening to some of my older podcasts today, and I think I need to do another Friends episode one. Talk about people in my life like that. I don't know. I need ideas. I implore you to give me ideas. But I do think I will also do a season of guests again and walk a mile in my shoes, because that I think would be a lot of fun. When you hear this, it will be December 8th. It'll be 1 week closer to Christmas. So get your Christmas shopping done. Get your elf on the shelf out. Mark showed up at our house today. Our elf's name is Mark. Jack is halfway between. I just think it's a decoration. You guys are making it up. And really? He's from the North Pole? So do all the things, all the holiday things. And let me know some of your deep, dark, dirty secrets. What do you really like underneath it all? Anyway, be good to yourself. Be good to someone else. And as always, have a good day, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.